think we can all agree that this year has been a very challenging and interesting year in many contexts, but in the context of PC hardware, this has been a really interesting year with many big and important releases. Nvidia's new Ampere GPUs, for example, which we're still seeing releases from as the months go by and they work their way down the product stack, and this was also a huge year for AMD. So today we're winding back the clock a little bit and taking a look at some of the best PC hardware and tech releases this year. And what better way to start than with AMD's Ryzen 5000 CPUs. I mean, this was one of the best PC related launches this year, bringing so much performance to a very familiar platform. So it's no surprise then that the best enthusiast CPU this year goes to a Ryzen 9 processor, and specifically I'm giving this to the 5900X. And I know it's the 5950X that's the all-out king when it comes to core count and brute CPU rendering performance, but for most popular content creation workloads, there really isn't much scaling beyond the 12-core 5900X. There are some games also where the 12-core does slightly better than the 16-core 5950X, and all around you are just getting a tremendous value and performance out of this CPU. This is actually what I'm using in my current gaming and editing machine as well, and it's been seriously awesome. But if you don't have any production workloads in mind and you're solely focusing on gaming, you really can't go past the Ryzen 5 5600X. Pairing this CPU even with an RTX 3080 or RX 6800 XT wouldn't be too unrealistic. This thing is fast. 6 cores and 12 threads really is the sweet spot for most games these days, and this will allow you to prioritize the rest of your budget for what really matters, your graphics card. Speaking of which, you've got a ton of great options that have released towards the end of this year, but that's also a really bad thing because the performance here is so good and so much better than last generation that everyone wants one of these, and these are incredibly hard to get your hands on. But regardless of the extreme demand and slim stock situation at the moment, I'm giving the best enthusiast gaming GPU of this year to Nvidia's RTX 3080. For one, store shelf has been quite a bit better than AMD's RX 6800 XT, and for $50 more you are getting a slightly better performing card along with additional features like DLSS, NVENC, and also CUDA support. And overall for $700 you are getting an extremely high performing card. It absolutely slaps the previous gen 2080 Ti while costing roughly $500 less, and I think it's the best option right now for a higher end GPU. And that leads me to the best mainstream GPU offering this year, and naturally that goes to the RTX 3060 Ti. At the time of filming, this is the most affordable GPU released from either Nvidia or AMD from their current GPU lineups, and that is really a shame because this thing is still kind of expensive for a lot of gamers at $400. But nevertheless, this is the best value GPU that you can buy right now. It consistently beats the RTX 2080 from last generation, and I'd consider this an excellent choice alongside a high refresh rate 1440p monitor. Also, given that we do have the 3060 Ti right now, it wouldn't be too unreasonable to think that Nvidia are working on a standard, plain RTX 3060, so if $400 is a bit out of your budget for now, then holding off for a $250 to $300 card towards the early start of next year might be a suitable thing to do. And of course, AMD came through big time with the RX 6800 and 6800 XT with slightly better price to performance than the 3070 and 3080. I'd consider these excellent options if you don't care about ray tracing, DLSS, streaming, or capturing gameplay footage, and prefer the lower power consumption of your GPU. But now let's switch gears a little because some of my favorite releases from this year came in the form of cases. In 2020, we finally saw bigger companies like Cooler Master and NZXT commit to making a sub 20 liter space optimized PC case, and the approach was honestly really good from both of them. First came the NZXT H1 in February. Although GPU thermals were a bit toasty compared to other compact cases that I've tested, you were left with a pretty quiet and small footprint system. I also love the vertical form factor and the huge amount of space that this frees up on your desk, and this case is also aged pretty well with the support of big 2.5 slot cards. And that was also a big concern for Cooler Master with their NR200, and I'd honestly say that this is one of the best cases to release this year. It's quite a bit larger than a Dan A4 and a bit larger than an NCase M1, but it actually has comparable space optimization on the interior to those cases. It's also thermally the best ITX case that I've tested, thanks to its 280mm AIO support and bottom intake fans and top exhaust fans. This year we also saw a sub 10 liter case pushing space optimization to the absolute limit, and that's of course the Formed T1. This is without a doubt the most space optimized case that you can buy right now. 3-slot GPUs can fit in this thing, which is absolutely nuts, and they can be cooled properly as well thanks to those mesh panels. This case also raised the bar quite a bit when it comes to overall quality, and I'm happy to see many of you get your hands on one this year despite this being a fairly niche case. And I'll also give Phanteks an honorable mention with their Evolve Shift 2 Air. I think this is a great small footprint case for gaming systems. Now, CPU coolers are not something that I'd usually include in a video like this because there's only so much innovation and so many improvements that you can make to a heatsink and fan design, but NZXT's Kraken Z series coolers were the most interesting CPU coolers to release this year, and it was also a really fun video project to work on. With these coolers, you can easily see things like system temperatures and clock speeds without having to open up external software like Hardware Info, and they also allow for a ton of different lighting effects. Best of all though, the GIFs. The fact that you can so easily upload a GIF of a crazy animation or maybe your own logo just takes the personalization of your own PC to the next level. These coolers are really expensive though, but regardless, it's super cool to see this new kind of direction for liquid cooler pump covers. 2020 also saw huge breakthroughs in gaming monitors with resolutions and refresh rates that we've never seen before. For example, who would have thought that we'd have a 1 millisecond 360 Hz IPS panel so soon, combining instant responsiveness with beautiful color accuracy. That's what you get with the ASUS PG259QN, which I've been using as my gaming monitor for competitive FPS, and it truly has been an absolute blast. Although my actual primary display that gets the most time on my desk is this right here, the LG 27GN950. Now, competitive first-person shooters aren't the only thing that I play, so for everything else, I'd say this monitor delivers pretty much one of the best gaming experiences that you can currently get. The big thing here is that before 2020, I wasn't really a fan of 4K gaming at all. For one, 4K 160Hz panels did not exist, and even if they did, we did not have anywhere near the GPU power to drive those specs. I'll also give an honorable mention to the LG CX 65-inch OLED TV. This thing has a 120Hz G-Sync OLED panel with virtually instant response times. This is truly the ultimate gaming TV, and it's crazy how a TV can feel as fast as some of the fastest gaming monitors out there. For a long time, I was just not interested in the compromise that came with gaming on a TV, most notably the ton of input lag. This feels unbelievably quick, and it's easily one of the best tech purchases that I made in 2020. Full review on this one coming up soon, so stay tuned. And this year we also saw some serious advancements when it came to gaming mice, specifically the spec of gaming mouse that you could get for under $100. The Glorious Model O Wireless, for example, just $80, but a serious competitor against the more premium options out there that cost almost double from Logitech and Razer. I personally can't wait to see what Glorious does next year with their new BAMF wireless sensor and lightweight designs. I'm expecting to see more challenges to those larger brands. If you don't care about price though, Logitech's new G Pro X Superlight is what I'd consider to be the ultimate gaming mouse at the moment for most users, and I'm excited to be testing this one very soon. Of course, there are so many other great options that we saw this year. One of my personal favorites that I got a ton of use out of was the Razer Viper Mini. So that pretty much wraps up what I think are some of the best tech and PC hardware releases this year, and if you are interested in some of the individual reviews for those products, I will have them linked down below. As always, a huge thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.